Hey guys, welcome back to the Danger Planet, and today we're shooting a video on Moonstone covering the Soldiers sub-faction from the Commonwealth. For folks that are just landing here, this is our second ever Moonstone video, and I am joined by my Moonstone homies, Keith and Jared. Gentlemen, say hello to the internet.
What up, internet?
Hello, internet.
The internet, we're back. And today, we're going to start our first in what's going to be an ongoing series where the three of us, right now, we're joined by the spirit of Brandon Lane, and then he will physically join us for other videos in the future, but he's with us in spirit right now. And the goal of these videos, guys, is basically we're going to take a microscope to each of the sub-factions within the game of Moonstone. And today, we're starting that with a look at the Soldiers sub-faction, specifically at the Commonwealth. And so what does that mean, right? What are we going to do in this video? It's pretty simple. We're basically going to break down the faction, including each of the models that you could possibly hire within that faction. We're going to talk a little bit about how those models work together from a synergy perspective. And then we're going to give you some example lists that you could start off with as a Soldiers player. And then we're going to finish it out with a little bit of discussion about how it fits into the larger meta. So I guess with that, I mean, best to just start at the beginning. Mr. Jared, Mr. Keith, do you guys want to just give the people at home on the internet just a high-level overview of the Commonwealth sub-faction of Soldiers in general, kind of what they're looking to do, how they operate? Maybe only spend like 2-3 minutes on this, and then we'll get right into the stat cards, because I think that's going to kind of be the bulk of the video.
Yeah, so the human soldiers are the faction I've been playing since I started Moonstone about 6 months ago, and they're very, very fun and a good faction to get into the game with, I think. They really are strong in melee. That's where they shine. Any fight, they can pretty much trade or take if you know how to flip your cards right. And they have a high health and defense, which helps them a lot sitting on stones and kind of taking control of the middle of the board if they can get there early enough. From my experience with them, they kind of lack utility compared to the other ones. I notice Jared and my buddy Steve with the Dominions and stuff, they're always casting a little more spells and using the arcane deck a lot more than I am. And a lot of my good arcane abilities are just kind of spend 2 to do them or spend 1 to do them. And then most of the big heavy hitters lack energy. So when you do get into melee, you probably only get 1 or 2 swings sometimes if you don't set your self up correctly with your buffs. And just because they are the big boys, most of them do have that high evade, so they lack against like fairies, who can already get those really, really easy arcane shots and magic tricks off of you.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I like to refer to them because I also picked them up under your tutelage as well. So I see these guys as like a bullying faction, right? They can do an incredible amount of damage. They're the best at what they do, but what they do ain't very subtle, right? Like they're going to move up the board, overlap buffs, and just kill models in melee, ideally, right?
Yep.
You can
exactly.
We can farm moonstones when you're dead, you know?
Oh yeah, like if you can kill it, then you might as well just kill it.
Yeah. I think that's a great high-level overview. Thank you. Mr. Jared, anything to add here, just from a high-level context on them?
No, I mean, going against them as an opponent, it's a calculated risk when you go step toe-to-toe with them in melee. You really want to keep them at arm's length as best you can, like Keith was saying. With those arcanes is really the only way to handle it, because they will knock you down if you get close enough.
Yeah, which I think is part and parcel of a melee beater faction, right? Like they slice you up real good, so you got to have a business plan for how you're going to approach that, I think. Go ahead.
Even like the smaller characters have some of them have addition to their damage too. So like I said with Flintlock, his dagger, even if he's in melee as a sniper, his piercing still does +1. So even he's a threat against some of your average opponents that when Jared plays Leshavault, if any of them get into melee, I can 1v1 a faun if I need to with Flintlock most of the time.
Yeah, and they all, not all, but a solid portion of them also have armor, so they'll reduce a lot of incoming damage, where the only real counter to that is if you have magic damage dealers.
And then you bring Sir Hogwash with that magical shield.
That's right.
Let's go, Mr. Boar. All right. perfect overview, guys. Thank you. I figure the best place to start is just to talk about the two leaders, right? And just to give context for like, you're probably generally most of the time going to be taking one of these guys, and sometimes take the other. Keith, since it's your sub faction, do you wanna lead us off and
absolutely.
talk about Mr. Poppycock and Mr. Fancyhat?
Mr. Poppycock. 9 times out of 10, this will be the leader I'm bringing. His card is just so good and complements so many models that no matter what you're taking, he's going to be able to help. Right off the bat, his plate armor, reduce non-magical damage suffered by -2, is great. He's going to be able to sit on those stones for you. He's going to be able to fight anything for you. Really good at... Okay, I can just get him to... If I can get him to this spot, he can touch everything I need him to on the board, and then he just has to sit there.
Yeah.
The ornithophobia... Sorry for the pronunciation, no idea. Whenever a goblin character ends a move, obviously that's really situational. It's cool if the person is playing against goblins and you get to use it. We have one person that I regularly play against that has goblins, and I haven't been able to play him that often because he just actually picked up the faction. So
you'll play Rich at some point in the near future, and he plays goblins. The guy who started Moonstone with me like 2 years ago.
Oh, perfect. So like taking an energy away from a goblin who already has a ton of energy it's not going to hinder them too much, but still it's something, right? And it's free. Then friendly soldiers within 6 inches gain +1 melee stat. You're already taking Eric, who buffs soldiers as well with the melee stat, who should be near Poppycock anyway, so you can get that 2 energy off for him.
Yeah.
So that's automatically you're going to get +2 to melee to, like, say Fritz, who's already going to be probably about 4 inches ahead of them on the battlefield if you're positioning yourself to take the middle.
Yeah, and this is where I think the layered buffs that we talked about a little bit at the beginning come into play, right? Like, you've got the governor ability from Poppycock, you've got Eric's layered ability, all of a sudden that's +2 static to a melee stat of any soldier. It's pretty good.
So yeah, you're going to notice that I keep saying that 4 inches, and that's kind of how I view this faction, where like you're going to see there's 6 inches and 8 inches, yada yada, but like I think like the golden rule for myself is like that 4 inch where I want something to be within 4 inches of something else, just so it's able to get like the buff it needs.
100%.
So that's kind of like my thing. And then yellow commands, like this is like the best utility we have right now with the movement. When I play against Jared with his Leshavault, when he's doing wooded patches, this is unbelievable to have that 2-inch movement and just be able to get your soldier out of that immediately and like through it with things like Hogswash, who's normally able to kind of get through everything and can kind of run up the board. If he gets blocked off, you can still get him into that back line by giving him a little push from Poppycock. Turn 1, you get activate Eric first, give Poppycock 4 energy. Bam, you're moving 4 models 2 inches on Poppycock's turn, and any of them with the soldier keyword. So
we call that colloquially in the Malifaux world, Mr. Keith, we call that the unpack. And I could not agree with you more strongly. That is the first thing my brain thought when I saw Poppycock and you were like kind of teaching me the ins and outs of soldiers. I was like, oh, this is the unpack. Like, hit him with Eric. Eric hits him, gives him energy, and then he spams out yell at command, and all of a sudden all your crap is up the board.
Eric is the unsung hero of the Commonwealth. And if the Goblin King Games people are listening, I know you have the Commonwealth Eric model somewhere, and I want it. Just saying.
And I want it. Give it to me.
I want the... I want it. I want that model.
I want it now.
But anyway, so...
No, you can't have him. Eric's Lesh.
Says the Leshavault player on the call.
No, we don't want Eric the Enlightened anymore. It's overrated. We want the Commonwealth Eric where he's supposed to be with Fancyhat, and we want it now.
The one of him on the dung beetle is so cool.
Yeah, see, they got theirs. Yeah. I want mine.
Yeah, bro.
What do I have to do to get this model? You tell me.
Keith's getting all upset right now.
I'm not upset. I'm just very passionate about this. Anyway, so what's it called? So his upgrade on the sweeping cut, the knee smasher, this is super situational. Well, I think so. I don't find myself using it that often. If the enemy suffered 1 or more wounds during this round of melee, then it cannot take a jog action until the end of the turn. This is one of those, like, if it's going to die and you know you're going to kill it kind of thing, then you can upgrade on this and make sure they can't move to a stone, like, at the end of like maybe turn 3 or 4, and it's going to screw them up for positioning to be able to not grab a stone at the last minute. But that's where I would think that I would use this. I've just never had to because he's a monster in melee. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, the other nice thing to call out, but I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying 100%.
Yeah.
The other thing to call out is it turns a sweeping cut into impact damage, which gives him +2 damage.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the end step is situational, but the rest of it, 4 damage on 4 out of the 6 moves.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
really
because I didn't go through Warhammer 2 because I kind of skipped over that to go right to plate armor to come back to it. But that's the other thing. In melee combat, he only does impact damage.
Yeah.
So you have to, like, if they can somehow crowd you out and you're only drawing 1 or 2 cards and you don't draw anything with impact, and like you don't get that sweeping cut, it's tough. Which I've found myself in that situation before a couple of times.
It gives you more impact procs.
Yeah,
which proc
exactly.
More synergy.
So if it does help with that sweeping cut, you're right. Yep.
But I think you did a really good job of just giving the high level of why he's important. I think the high level points here are he helps you with your unpacked. Yellow command after you pump him up with Eric is critical. His passive damage buff is critical. He's a tanky boy that can absorb armor, and he's a great leader. You're probably almost never leaving at home.
Yeah. 4 melee. Yeah, 4 melee, like insane. He can like get up to 8 cards easy melee with all the buffs around him. Yeah, great.
Agreed, 100%. All right, what do you got for the... I mean, I love this guy, but I concede that he's probably less popular overall than Sir Guillemot Poppycock, the man with the fancy hat, Mr. Keith.
Oh, Fancyhat. So this is when I kind of want to be mean. Like if Jared's like annoyed me this week or something like that, and I just kind of want to make him feel bad in melee combat, I'll bring a Fancyhat list, which is pretty much just I'm gonna kill stuff, and hopefully it's enough so that he can't even pick up a Moonstone. That's my goal with Fancyhat. Is I don't try and pick up Moonstones. I'm gonna win 1-0, and I'm just gonna stop you from picking them up and kill everything that has one.
Yeah, I think Baron von Fancyhat is the perfect example of you can't farm Moonstones if you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so 5 melee, insane right off the bat. That's like, there's only a couple of models I want to say that have 5 or more melee, and I believe there's only 1 in the game that has 6. So 5 is already right off the bat really good. So if you're getting attacked, you're already drawing probably just as much of a lot of cards in the game without them going for it, because an average I'd say would be like 3 melee.
Well, if you're in the aura bubbles, I mean, you're primarily looking at like melee stats 7 with him. Before
yes. So with the Eric bubble, you get the 7 melee. Then you go for it on the 9, and then if you're attacking, you get the 2. So that's 11
cards
right there
in total
when you go for it on your first, and that's you can do that twice because you get the 4 from Eric. So right off the bat, you're flipping 11 cards twice against somebody. You're gonna kill it. you're gonna kill it. It's gonna die. You might die too. He only has 7 health, so like that's the thing to think about. It's kind of like one of those 7 health with the plate armor again, so it's still -2 damage, which is great. But most of the time, if I'm gonna fight one of Jared's models with Fancyhat, I think he just kind of looks at it as like I need to like kill it if it's gonna like kill me, like one of those things. So
well, you throw him at the key, the core model of the opponent's group, and then you can cripple the any synergies they were looking for out of that model.
I think another really interesting thing to call out about Baron Fancyhat, because we were talking about this obviously before we recorded, is 1, he himself is not a soldier. He is a human noble, and 2, he is, like we already talked about it, he's less of a synergy piece and more of a piece that you are looking to apply synergy to, right? So in my mind, he's like the key model that you're stacking all these buffs on and removing models with. And then we talked about a little bit how he can draw up to 11 cards. The crazy thing that I've done before a couple of times now is one-shot a giant with a Master Strike. Because when you draw 11 cards in your hand, you are generally going to be able to hit either falling swing, thrust, or sweeping cut to then do a counter attack, which can then, you can really stack the damage on if you get a little lucky. So I've now like twice, using this guy in 2 different games, just one-shot a giant from full health with him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. Anything else on... And I guess, to me, like, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. Keep me honest, right? Mr. Jared, Mr. Keith. I feel like his pistol is kind of nice to have, but not really the core thing you're doing with him.
No.
Right?
It's nice that it doesn't break on a catastrophe. I'll give it that. And then it's one of those things where it's like, oh, on turn 1, I wasn't able to get into position to really do anything with melee, or you might as well take a shot, right? Like,
Yeah.
see if you can do a little bit. And it's X+1 for a pistol, which is it's no slouch. So
And then you got
it's nice just to have that in your pocket if
Exactly.
you're like, oh, you didn't quite make the movement you were looking for, or your opponent stayed far enough away. You can still pop.
or you got to
off.
put a little bit of chip damage into something to remove it, and
Right,
it's like
right.
8 inches away or whatever.
Exactly. Like if Flintlock can't quite finish something off or doesn't flip the green, you can always try and get Fancyhat.
Yeah. The question I had for you, Keith, actually, and I waited to spring this on you like an ass mid-recording, is talk to me a little bit about Rallying Cry. Like, is that like a key feature to the game? It's obviously, it's a once-a-game ability, it costs 0 energy, and it's a pulse. When are you looking to use that during a match?
So there's kind of 2 ways that I know that you can use it, but I'm also going to tell you that it's not often that I either remember to use it or it's super beneficial. But the cheeky thing you can do is you can do it at the beginning of turn 1, and everybody can take an extra reaction step an inch, so you're getting an extra inch of movement turn 1.
Oh, interesting.
So
it takes it to like everybody gets like 3 inches. Movement.
Yeah, so everybody moves. You go up with like, or like a couple people move. Like, I don't think you can do it with everybody, but like a couple people move, you can rally and cry, and then you can do the reaction steps to get some extra movement or something on them. And then the other, it's really just for that. I've noticed if somebody else knows anything about it in the comments or something like that, they please share how rally and cry is supposed to be used, because the only thing I can think of is like to get the more reaction steps out of it, and that's when I use it. When I mean, the other night, I think, what were we playing, Jared? Was that the 2-headed giant game? Where if would have worked, except I was using it on a non-human because I messed up the ruling because I don't really use it that often. But it would have allowed that person to get an extra reaction step to get into engagement with something, so that couldn't pick up a moonstone.
Yeah, I honestly don't even. I can't think of a single time that you've used this against me.
Yeah.
But the other thing I can think of just off the top of my head here is if you've already gone with a model, but you know that they're going to get engaged and need the extra either reaction steps or to go for it a few times. If you've got a key model on your team that's about to get hit by mine, you might want to give them their energy back just so they can go for it a couple times.
Yeah, that's true too. Like Fritz, if Fritz is in the center getting hit again.
Yeah.
After he already
so you can go with Fritz, right? You can go hit something hard with Fritz, then rally and cry, and then he's set for the rest of that turn and still have some energy for reactions and going for it on melee.
I think that is a good overview of the man with the fancy hat.
Fancy pants.
I think because we mentioned him already, and like we all kind of agree he's core to soldiers. Why don't we talk about Eric the Squire next?
Yeah. Jared, do you have any thing to share about Eric? Or you want me to just keep going?
My little boy Eric?
Yeah.
Well, you have the grown-up version.
I know.
I have grown-up Eric.
No,
so
it's not that he has the grown-up version. It's just Commonwealth has the better version. If you want to explain why Eric, my Eric, I would love it for you to tell him how great my Eric is and go over his card.
I'll tell you exactly how good he is. Yeah. He's a target. I want to take him down as soon as I can. He usually hangs out in the back. He is a support character through and through. He buffs all your other soldier boys. So he kind of hangs in the back row, in the back line. Squire, his first ability there, Keith's already mentioned it a few times, giving a +1 melee stat to other soldiers within 4 inches, +1 melee stat. That's huge. And then he also buffs nobles. So when you got Fancyhat in, yeah. So this is where you're talking about, Doug, where Fancyhat wants to soak up all those buffs from everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's huge. He's already got that huge melee, and then give him +2 here.
Yeah.
I mean, just like most of the other soldiers, he's got at least a little bit of armor. So he's a little boy, but he's got a leather jerkin.
He's a man. I will not tolerate this if you're going to do this on his card.
Blasphemy.
He literally has a pimply face on the artwork, so I don't know what you're talking about.
He's a man.
Again, with the My Hero, so he can spend 2 and throw out energy to soldiers or nobles. Again, 1 to soldiers and 2 to nobles. So,
and that's what we're talking about with Poppycock on the Unpack. You basically take My Hero and you tap Lord Poppycock with it. to load them up with the energy, and then you use that energy expenditure from Poppycock to push your guys up the table. Turn
Yep.
one.
You'll use my hero every turn.
It's really good.
It really is one of those, like, if I can't use it, it hurts. One of those things where, like, I notice it the turn. If it's like turn 2 and I'm like, damn, if Eric doesn't pick up this stone, like, there's no way I can win kind of situation, and I have to like waste like 3 energy on it, it's going to be one of those, all right, something isn't going to be able to happen this turn.
Yeah, and then I think the other big thing, I think this is lesser than everything you've called out. I think everything you've called out is way more important, but he has a pretty like energy efficient heal, which is good. It keeps your soldiers topped off on health.
Yeah. At only healing X, it's what you get for your expenditure on the 1 energy. The real kicker with this one is that it's only 4 inches. So, but then again, you're keeping him up close anyway to get all those buffs off. So
yeah. And then the other thing that I think is just the last part, which also 4 inches, is his special, his Schwa-Wa-Wee-Wa, you'll regret that.
Super cheeky.
Has a 4-inch swap position scenario on the end step. So it doesn't deal damage, but if this model is not slain, swap the positions of this model and a friendly model within 4. So, shocker, you're already keeping all your beaters within 4 of them because you want these overlapping buffs. So then he takes a hit, he survives it, hopefully, and then he flips like either Poppycock or Fancyhat or like Fritz or somebody that's just going to annihilate whatever was hitting him into contact, flips himself out, right? And so it's a very cheeky additional free movement trick that I think will take some people by surprise, I think.
Oh, it always happens. So like I said at the very beginning of Eric's little spiel here is I go after him first to take out his, all his buffs.
Yeah.
And then I forget about you'll regret that. And Keith, cheeks this one out on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn it.
Here's
all right,
Fritz.
I guess I'm not knocking him out. Yeah. Here's Fritz in your face. Enjoy.
Gosh darn it. Cool. I think that's a great overview of Eric the Squire. I think the 3 of us generally will agree this is a critically core piece to any soldier list, basically. Okay, cool. Let's move on to, I think what a lot of people would also agree is a pretty powerful model, who is also a pretty core piece of the soldiers. Your friend and mine, Keith, Mr. Flintlock.
He's a core piece of my heart as well.
So romantic.
It's not a secret how much I like Flintlock by now. So yeah, I mean, like, just look at it. It's beautiful. I'm looking at the card right now. It's just beautiful. 3 melee, 3 arcane. We're doing the dagger with the +1 piercing that we already talked about. So I've killed giants with Flintlock. I've killed a giant not even 48 hours ago with Flintlock. That's how great this model is.
In melee.
Yes, melee. Sorry. Specifically melee. No shots, no nothing. Just straight up stabbed him to death. Take aim on... usually I end up using this turn 1 just to get it off on like an easy shot. And then for the rest of it, I'm usually shooting and reloading. So I use up that 3 energy on that. If I'm not giving him energy from... If I take Agatha as a second support, I might give him some energy with her. But for the most part, it's going to be that, like, just that shoot reload every turn. Look out. Target friendly characters evade stat is reduced by 1 until the end of the turn. I've used this more times than I thought I would, just because of how much has the +1 evade on the soldiers, and this just complements that really well, where if they really are playing well and they don't let you get a shot off because they can block line of sight with wooded patches, Eric, then you can use like lookout, because Fritz is going to try and get up front as quickly as possible anyway. So I find myself like taking away that evade for him is really, really strong. And then the shoot musket, like target suffers X +2 impact damage. +2 damage is just so good right off the bat. With models with like 6 or 7 health, like a third of their health, no matter what you flip, is like crazy. Like you flip a 1, that's still 3 health. Insane.
And he does it from 12 away.
12 inches away. Like, very far for this game on a 3x3 board.
Yeah, it's a third of the board, and you're always deploying up 10 inches, so you're already hitting 90% of the board.
25 inches radially. I always think of stuff like this radially because my brain is always Malifaux math. And now Moonstone math. I got to get that. I'm a Moonstone and Malifaux boy now.
Hell yeah.
So I always think it's a 30 mil base on Flintlock, right? 30 mil is about an inch. Radially, 12 inches either direction. That's 24 inches of influence with a gosh darn large rifle. that he's pointing right at whatever he needs to die immediately, so
Yeah, just don't bluff on this one unless you got Calders or Braddock nearby.
That's the one thing where I have broken his rifle when I first started playing so many
No,
times.
I have broken his rifle.
Yeah,
with the catastrophe.
I take responsibility for his mistakes. It was on me.
All right,
I broke the rifle.
I think you did a really good job covering all his abilities. Do you want to just talk really quickly about tactical retreat, his special tie?
Oh yes. So this model may move 2 inches away. I mean, getting him out of melee, that's really like huge for him. If somebody does end up coming up on him, getting 2 inches away, they're gonna have to waste a step to get to him if they don't have that 2-inch range. And if they do have that 2-inch range, they're gonna have to move up anyway. So,
and a little bit of damage reduction. It's nice to have, but yeah. I think you're right. I think the core part of this is he kind of like Schwingle steps out of melee, and then top of whatever next turn, he can just go, if he gets first activation, just blast whatever was hitting him.
Yep. Exactly.
Basically.
And then you can get cheeky by giving him energy and doing double shots and all that crazy tech that you can make people hate you for.
You can turn him into turret mode, which is amazing and lots of fun. Mr. Jared, anything else before we move on from Mr. Flintlock?
He's the big ranged piece in the soldier's keyword, so I like to take him out.
Yeah, and you have to be. I think that's a really good point, Jared. Is if you're playing against the soldiers, you have to be aware of where Flintlock is on the board.
Yeah,
because if you're not,
he is a threat.
Yeah, like you have to play in a way that will acknowledge Flintlock's existence. Yep. Because if you don't, he is going to shoot you in the face.
I mean, give him the respect he deserves.
Our game last night, I had to deploy out of line of sight, knowing that he could just pop me in on turn 1 before I even move. So
yeah. All right, I think a pretty natural next model to talk about, because he's often paired up with Flintlock. Let's talk about old Calders. Is it Calders or old Calder?
Old Calders.
Old Calders, yeah.
Calders.
I'm going to call him Calders if I'm wrong. Sorry.
We need GKG to give us the official ruling on that.
We need an FAQ on how to pronounce this guy's name, please.
Like half of them at least.
Yeah. All right, what do you guys got on the old man here?
He's a lot of fun. Just straight off the bat, you said pairing him with Flintlock. The reason we do that is the sage advice: friendly models within 4 inches, there it is again, may ignore catastrophe effects. You can bluff that green 3 every turn.
Every gosh darn time.
Every turn. If you don't have anything, you might as well just try for the green 3 and see if Jared's going to call you for it.
Keith looks down at his hand, and through like a mental visual trick, all he sees is green 3s every time he activates Flintlock. If Calders is within,
if Calders is there,
you feel like an unstoppable force. You're just like green 3 bluff. Oh yeah, I forgot you could still call it though. Like, oh, that's right. You get a little ahead of yourself sometimes, but no, it's really good. It helps with other models as well. Like if you happen to have something, or what's it called? Some of the other fairy models do like cheeky stuff that they can do off of catastrophes, and if you ignore the effects of catastrophes, then kind of screws it up for them a little bit.
I will say I did not give enough respect to this model initially, and I remember when we were first talking, like you were first kind of like helping me get up to speed on like playing soldiers and preparing them for like tournaments and stuff, and I was like, yeah, this guy's like okay, and you're like, dude, he's more than okay. Like, this guy is the sauce.
It's like you really have to use him, I think, and experience it firsthand to see it, because he does that great catastrophe but the seen it all before is something that in the last couple of games I've tried to go out of my way to use. So seen it all before: if this character, attacker, defender in a round of melee, before each player selects their combat card, your opponent must reveal their hand. So
huge.
We talked about soldiers naturally grouping up and trying to stay within 4 inches. So most of the time stuff is you have 2 things in combat and you can start crowding out. I've had situations with Calders flipping 3 melee, which isn't like bad. 3 melees, like I said, like I think earlier I said around the average, so that's like already good for a more support oriented character in the first place. But being able to crowd out opponents, make them draw 1 card against you, and they have to show you that card, and then you're flipping 5 cards against them, and you can just look and say, oh, you have the high guard? Oh, great, here, I'm definitely doing damage. You can get auto damage off them almost every time. Even if they're only drawing 2 cards, it's really easy to figure out what they're going to play. But I was playing my buddy both times they were playing Shades, and Viscount, a big beefy model that's really good at melee combat, that's kind of in your face. I was able to set it up so that Calders took him out easy in melee combat, like 2 tries. And it was one of those like, wow, I need, like, you can really capitalize on this, and you don't really have to be as shy with him as you think, because he has 8 health, which is really good for being able to, like,
and he has
sustain
damage
And his
reduction.
armor.
Exactly.
I think Seen It All Before strikes me as a rule or an ability that rewards advanced knowledge of the game mechanics. What I mean by that is that you're going to be able to get more gas out of this the better you get at Moonstone, and the better you get from a situational awareness perspective of, oh, I'm in combat with XYZ model. They're trying to do XYZ against me. All right, I'm going to counter that by doing ABC, right? Like, Seen It All Before is one of those abilities that I talk about in Malifaux, where it's like, the better you get at the game, the better this ability will be for you.
Yeah, it's
I also just love the lore of, like, it's always, fear a soldier that's grown old, right? Because they've grown old for a reason. They know everything. So no matter what you pick, he knows what you're gonna do in a fight, because he's seen it all before. I love that.
Yeah, and then he has, I think not to be ignored, it's kind of pretty nice. He has the 2nd level of healing, so he also has that field medic ability that Eric the Squire has.
So most of the time you're bringing Eric and Calders. That's why, it's only X wounds, but he's gonna use his energy to bring down stones for me. So if I see, usually most of the time in the back line, Eric and Calders are the ones that, like, oh, if I have an extra energy to spend this round, I'm just gonna try and dig a stone down, so in the future it's easier to pick up.
Yeah.
So I'll either spend it on, like, dropping a stone, or I'll use Lookout, like that evade stat we were talking about earlier again, like on easy on Fritz, easy on Poppycock, and then the field medic. Just an easy, there we go. We can, like, get that extra 2 health that Eric wasn't able to get for you.
He strikes me as a really good, I'm making up a term here, so feel free to call me out on my nonsense, but a Moonstone jockey, right? Like, what I mean by that is he's using his AP expenditure, or his energy, use the right words, Doug. He's using his energy expenditure to commit to kind of digging up Moonstones in the back/middle of the board, and then if you're positioning him correctly, you're getting a good amount of value out of his passive abilities. And then when you need to, you can commit pretty efficient energy to the field medic ability, which will then keep your heavy, durable, armor-clad soldiers topped off on health.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And then he just tactical treat like Flintlock. Move 2 inches away, reduce the damage by
I didn't
1.
realize he had the exact same thing as Flintlock.
Yeah. Yep. So
a match made in heaven.
Even if he's holding on to that stone, I feel pretty secure most of the time.
Yeah.
And
he's got native passive reduction, and then plus additional passive reduction on tactical retreat.
I mean, Seen It All Before can be used again if they're trying to do damage on you. You can look, oh, they have all this damage types. Oh, I know High Guard blocks against all of those.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by, like, that is an ability where as you get better at Moonstone, you're going to get more gas in the tank with that thing.
Yeah, it's great.
I think. All right, cool. Any last words on the old man before we move on?
He's a good old boy.
Don't forget he's there when you're hoping for a catastrophe.
Yeah.
I've done that more times than I can count.
Agreed.
Throw down a catastrophe, all
watching the
real confident, like, and then Keith's like, no,
watching the
old
hope
man's
leave
there.
your face when you hit a catastrophe. When I bluff a green 3 just to go Calders.
Calders.
So I think the next one that makes sense to talk about, at least I just love this guy. Let's chat about Fritz.
Oh,
what do you guys got on Fritz?
My boy. I love all of these models. Who am I kidding? They're all my favorite.
Oh, my little resin children.
I get so excited every time.
Sure, yeah. What do you got?
Fritz. I'm taking this one, Jared. I love him. So Fritz, let's just, like, +3 slicing damage. What else could you ask for? It's insane. If you had, like, +3 damage is crazy. I don't know any off the top of my head. I know there's models that have it, but off the top of my head, there's very few that have a +3 damage buff.
Yeah.
But, like, it's slicing, which rising attack you can upgrade on, which is
layered in with the soldier buffs.
Yes, exactly. So, like, again, melee 4, I would consider above average. Then you're getting, like, the +1 from Eric and the +1 from Poppycock. So you're getting 6 and then 8, and then you go for it 10 cards as Fritz is insane.
Yeah.
The intimidate, it's target human or goblin suffers the -2 arcane stat. It's good to do if you can get it off on, like, turn 1, if they have, like, a Doug the Flatulent that kind of gets in your face. or something like that. It's it's okay. I don't find myself using it too often.
Yeah, it's not the star of the show here.
Oh no, God no! The star of the show is you're using that energy to whack them 3 times.
The star of the show is his greatsword
Yeah.
and his ability to swing it with anger.
Him being able to have that 2-inch range as well. You'll notice the stand back, that 2-inch pulse. He can run up, hit you out of that 1-inch range. So if you're fighting with 1-inch range and he's fighting with 2, you're out of engagement with him. You can't do damage back. It's so easy to just use that. All right, I'm gonna push you back real quick, and now you can't even fight me back in combat. And
It's
if you
one-sided hitting.
Yep. So, and then we got hit the star of the show. Really is Corn Cutter, his signature move.
Yeah.
So first off, damage type slicing, automatically getting a +3 to whatever you're doing. If they play the low guard, it sucks. But the end step effect is what you got to pay attention to. That deal 2 slicing damage to all models within 2 inches that did not participate in this round of melee. This does not
unresisted pulse damage. Let's go.
Unresisted pulse damage. So this does not count as melee damage, so you're not getting the +3. So it's not 2 + 3, but you play 3 rising attacks. You're flipping 10 cards. Chances are you're going to hopefully get 1 or 2 rising attacks at least. If you do get that 3, you're doing 6 damage to everything within 2 inches of you.
Yeah, he's just a whirlwind of death at that point.
Against psychopomps, bunnies, all of these kind of summoner models, it is crazy devastating.
Yeah. I've lost a lot of models to that swing.
Yeah, Fritz's pulse, I feel like one of the things that when I got back into the game, really looking at it competitively and trying to understand the game, was a lot of people being like, how do you beat psychopomp spam? And the soldier answer is Fritz.
I remember when our buddy got the shades and he started playing them, Jared was having such trouble against them. Anybody who played against him was having trouble, and I went the first 10 games undefeated against him. And I kept sitting there thinking, and I was like, I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know what you guys... And then I realized, I was like, oh, you guys play you guys don't kill stuff.
They don't have Fritz.
They don't have Fritz. Yeah.
I was like, oh, so that's what it was. All right.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's awesome. So the great thing too is a little thing that I like to do is with these summoner models, right? So if they have that psychopomp next to the nanny, whose big fat stupid milkies are always there, if I attack that psychopomp, he can hit that low guard, but he's only drawing 1 card against me with that psychopomp, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hit him that psychopomp. I'm going to try and get those rising attacks, and I'm just going to get that auto damage onto the nanny.
Yeah.
So I usually attack the thing I don't care too much about doing damage to. I pay more attention to what's within 2 inches.
And trying to get that pulse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and the only real counter is to try and use forced movement, or just get up in his face before he can get Fritz out in front, and make him decide whether he wants to potentially hit his own models with that or not, because it doesn't specify enemies only, right?
Yeah.
So if you make sure that Fritz is near some of his friends, then the player has to decide, well, is it worth hitting 2 of mine to hit theirs as well?
And then turn 1 is always for me just 7-inch movement forward. I just step right up the board and try and get into the middle and say, okay, now you have to deal with Fritz, go.
Yeah.
And don't bunch up. If you see Fritz coming up the board, you
For the love of God, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the worst idea ever. Trust me, I know from experience.
Yeah, Jared shows you the scars that he's accumulated. As the Lesh of Olives. I'm sorry, Jared. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I spend all that energy summoning a bunch of bunnies, and then Fritz is like, "Nah, I don't think so.
I hate bunnies."
Yeah. All right. Very good overview. I love that model. We are gonna now go on to my favorite model. And this is one of the models that convinced me to buy into the soldier faction, because I freaking love this guy, Sir Hogswash.
Just the best, one of the best models.
I love him.
Not game wise, just model.
Dude, he has so much mobility. All right, I won't tip the hat here. Which one of you wants to give a quick overview?
No, why don't you go?
Oh, sure,
ahead.
yeah.
Go through the card. Yeah, Doug, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So I love this guy specifically because I love models with lots of threat range attached to them. And one of my favorite things is kind of doing what Keith described, because Keith is the one that showed me how to play competitive soldiers, right? So I've just basically copied his homework to a large degree. But what I've found is you do the unpack with Eric. You hit Poppycock with the energy. He pushes everybody up. You kind of position everybody. And then I will tend to go later in the turn with Hogswash after opponent has committed 1 or 2 models up the board. And then Hogswash activates, he gets a jog, Then he takes a charge, and he can like isolate a model if it's like squishy and just immediately kill it, because he's got a net threat range of 4 for the jog, 4 for the push, 2 for the melee. All of a sudden, we're looking at a net total threat range of 10 inches off this guy on turn 1 after already being moved up the board natively by Poppycock. And if you're smart about how you do stuff, you can also kind of like trap other crappier models that have like 1 inch engage or whatever. And he's tanky. So like you can throw him out there, try to pick off a model or whatever, or be very aggressive with him. Again, I'm talking about the charge ability.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can then, if you need to, then reposition him back into your bubble on like top of 2, or just like throw him sideways into a different target. And he can just be this wrecking ball of incredibly like maneuverable damage, which at the same time, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as a soldiers player, you're also applying pressure up the middle with like Fritz or board state control via Flintlock. And so it can become just like this incredible amount of damage that's thrown where you choose to throw it as the soldier player. And if you pressure in the right positions, you can kind of watch the internals of your opponent's troop just crumble. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm stupid. Guys, What do you got on this?
I think another use case too is, he can hold his own. He doesn't have to be in that bubble of...
Oh, and Sun Shield is dope. Because it's, I think an important call out here...
Magical.
Is that a big weakness of soldiers in general is that they've got a lot of plate armor that does native reduction and can be really efficient, but a lot of the exclusion to that is magical damage. Not true with Hogwash. Hogwash is one of the few soldiers that has magical damage reduction on him, natively built in.
Yeah, so he can handle himself without being in that bubble. I mean, he loves being in that bubble like everybody else, but you can send him out to go scout and go just wreck the one... my one model that I sent off on a faraway Moonstone stupidly.
Yeah.
Hogswash can get over there, wreck that model, and go, oh no, this is mine, and then come back to the battle.
And then come back to the bubble if you need to.
Yeah. Not to mention the +2 damage on the charge as well that you're getting. So even after you charge, you're still like getting a buff just by doing the thing you were going to do anyway.
Yeah. And then let's talk a little bit about... So I'm kind of conflicted on gore, to be honest with you guys. Let me give you my pitch on this, right? My little soapbox on why I think it can be good, but also maybe not as good, right? It's impressive. It's a rising attack upgrade for piercing, right? So you are going to be getting, I think he does plus piercing, right? He's got it. If this deals,
piercing or slicing.
Yeah, piercing or slicing. He gets an additional, and then he also gets another additional if he's attacking an animal, which for me has been mostly a nice to have. Like, I don't really, if it comes up, it's awesome, but it's kind of a nice to have. The issue kind of that I have that I think a lot about is that for this to be really good, you have to be within 1 of the enemy. Otherwise, the attack will deal null. So it's really powerful. Generally, it's a good attack. And it also moves the enemy, but it takes your melee engagement from 2 natively with the spear down to 1, which directly infects his threat range.
Well,
right?
So the reason for that is because with your charge, you have to go the full 4 inches if you can.
Yeah.
And you'll often end up within the 1 inch range. So you could use gore to push them out into that 2 inch range where they can't.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good call out.
So it's usually your first hit to get them out of their combat range, so that then you can keep pummeling them.
You're also doing 1 damage against anything, because with that low guard at 0, you're still getting the +1 to piercing.
That's true. Yeah.
You're not dealing null. You're dealing 0 and then buff it.
That's just getting like a little bit off.
Yeah.
But even damage aside, the end step happens regardless.
Yeah.
So you can always push them out of that 1 inch threat range, and then continue to pummel them with your 2 inch range.
Yeah, that's a good call out, to be honest. Anything else on the Bori Boy before we move on from either?
Just that when you mentioned like you throw him into the back line, Utter Swine, his ability, it's still one of those really, really good things against shades. You can take away their ability to summon if you can.
Oh yeah, you can strip
line.
summoners.
So while most of the time you want to kill whatever you're going after with this charge, with the shades you don't want to kill them because they can bring things back. You just want to do some damage on them. So what you can do is you can do the charge, see how much damage you get off, and take away their ability with like to summon something the next turn for energy, and then you just take Utter Swine and go, okay, Fritz, you're going to take 2 damage because you're in the middle of the board 6 inches away, and then I'm going to take away your ability to summon. So now for 2 turns you're not going to be able to summon.
Well, it says, unless I'm wrong, until end of turn.
Yeah, but so if you do enough damage to take away an energy from a Shade's Reser, they can't resurrect the next turn. So
Oh,
they
you're
don't have
saying
enough energy to.
Yeah. You're
Yeah,
saying beat the crap out of them, reduce their energy, then hit them with this
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're not summoning their Pomps turn 1, and then if you were able to do that to take away their energy for turn 2, when they replenish, they're not going to have enough to res.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Okay. I think that's a good overview of my Bori boy. Do you guys... I don't know that much about this model. This is something where I'm literally just going to listen to the two of you talk. Let's talk about Agatha, I guess. Everyone's favorite bar wench.
She's Keith's new kid on the block.
New kid on the block. That's my lady. Yeah, she's a lot of fun. I've started using her the last couple of games. We played one, like the two-headed giant game we played the other day. I brought her. It was a lot of fun, and she can do a lot of cheeky stuff for the soldiers if you want to not necessarily get super competitive. Don't get me wrong, like she has a place in competitive, absolutely, but
she also has like the kid is versatile. Right?
Oh yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, if you can do the smart thing with her, or you can do the rule of cool, which I live by, and do the let's see if we can get 3 shots off with Flintlock in one turn. So
Flintlock turret mode activate.
Dude, yeah, it's insane. So she gives the buff to the soldiers. So this is huge. The Deutsch Courage. Sorry for the pronunciation if that's wrong. If a friendly soldier or mercenary makes a melee attack action while within 6 inches, you may have them gain 1 energy. So when Fritz was, let's say Fritz is making that attack, so his first attack, you spend the energy, do it, you're getting that energy back. That attack was free. You have 3 energy on Fritz. You're doing 4 attacks before, if you want to give him energy, using Drink Your Fill. So you can use these to really, really turn certain soldiers, and I'm going to keep referencing
a hyper aggro to Super Saiyan mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just insane. It's like when, exactly, Super Saiyan Brawly, basically, when he just goes absolutely nuts and just wants to kill. Concealed Dagger, if the character deals piercing damage, increase the damage dealt by 1. Good for her. Concealed Dagger. She's a barmaid. Of course, she has that dagger hidden for all those ruffians.
Yeah, but where is it hidden?
Yeah. Oh, Jared.
We don't ask those questions. We just, we're just happy that she's able to defend herself.
This is Moonstone, not Malifaux.
Yeah, Jared, have some decorum. This is Moonstone, not Malifaux.
Also, if this character plays a rising attack, increase the damage dealt by 1. I'm assuming her rising attack is kicking someone in the nuts. That's what I envisioned. If this character plays a rising attack, increase the damage. I know it's a concealed dagger, but when I think of rising attack and Agatha as a barmaid and being like the bad bitch she is, I can only imagine that a rising attack has to be some sort of rise into their nuts.
I would also like to call out that she and Fritz have my favorite story-themed mission, where the scenario is that Fritz has claimed a Moonstone and went to the bar to get drunk about it, and is kind of mouthing off to everybody that he has a Moonstone, and Agatha is like, all right, Fritz, you're a little too drunk, man. You got to go home. And so the mission starts where you start with Agatha and Fritz, and the goal is to get Fritz back home. But then there's a bunch of people that are waiting to ambush Fritz to steal his Moonstone. So that's
because he's been drunkenly mouthing off about it.
Yeah, that is my all-time favorite flavored mission. I love that thing. It's so great.
I got the drunk Fritz model just so we can do that one.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about her specialty.
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
She has 2 of the arcane abilities. Enticing Offers really works well with the soldiers when you're playing against those lists that can stay back. If you lose Early Bird and the stones are in their favor on the board, where they can easily pick up 4 or 5 where they're going to have that advantage and they're going to just sit back with them or try and run off the board, this can pull them towards you so that you can get that damage off with Fritz turn 1 maybe. 4 inches directly towards this model, and a 10-inch range is huge, so you're gonna be able to get that off early if you need to, which is nice. But the real thing is the Drink Your Fill. Whatever you flip is probably going to be good, because with the 2-inch range, you're going to be next to something or in combat with something anyway. So the target loses X energy can be extremely devastating to models. Just obviously, thinking Doug the Flatulent right off the bat. You take away 3 energy from him. He's going to be super gimped. Those high energy models that are really, really good in melee against the Commonwealth that we do have to worry about when we actually have to worry about melee. So that's really good. And then
it almost feels like a ability that's very akin to how some of the evil humans operate, or that how the creep has that drain, and I think the Duchess has a drain as well.
Yeah. I think so.
Don't quote us on it. We'll when we have the card in front of us, we'll be more accurate.
This is also one of those when I said earlier that they don't have a lot of utility. Agatha is kind of that utility for me, where she's going to be the one that kind of gives you that like, oh, I have a couple options I can do here. What's the best one? Whereas most of the other pings are straightforward, where you're moving with Poppycock, you're shooting with Flintlock's arcane ability, you're doing these things. With her, it's kind of like, well, is it better for me to take energy away from the opponent, or should I give Fritz energy? Should I? And then you can give energy, take energy, and then the target's melee stat is increased by +X until the end of the turn.
Another melee
stat increase.
Yeah.
So we said what? We had 10 on Fritz already without Agatha being involved at all. And then we're adding another maybe 13 card flip as Fritz. And so the opponent is only flipping 5 cards out of an 18 card melee deck. Like, I don't know, man.
It's pretty dope.
I don't know, man.
Great. And I also think your call out is really important, Keith, in that she is one of those few models that you're going to have in your like bench as a soldier player that is like a utility knife. Her play loop is not so defined like so many of the other soldiers is. Her play loop is flexible. So like you can kind of use her for how you need to use her. And I think in my mind, this is another example of a model that becomes a lot better the more reps you get in Moonstone. The more you learn to realize certain scenarios, or you learn certain matchups, and you're like, oh, in this matchup, I need to threshold the vicious midget below this number to protect against a leap plus an attack or something like that.
Yeah.
And proactively identifying that and then pushing the barmaid button to help you do that, I think can be really good, but I also think is fairly skill expressive and is a model that will get better as you, the pilot, get better at playing soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Yeah, because I was not using her in the beginning at all. I was mostly just going for that aggressive, let's beat him up style. And the more I played, the more I was like, yeah, that's only going to get you so far.
I mean, you can also be cheeky with that. I don't think you've used this, but
the hell hath no fury.
The catastrophe on Drink Your Fill.
Oh, yeah.
You can target somebody, play a catastrophe, and have them drop a Moonstone.
Yeah, so that's one of those other things where if she's in melee and you have a Moonstone, it's great. But with the 2-inch on the Drink Your Fill, it's like one of those, you're throwing her into melee combat with something.
Oh, I don't think you're throwing her into it. I think that's a break glass type
exactly.
of
she ends up there because someone has thrown themselves into melee with her.
Yeah. But also you could use that to turn the tide in a overtime. Just be like, nope, drop that Moonstone, I win.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, and then when she does get into melee, it's not even like that crazy because her upgrade for High Guard is insane. The hell hath no fury.
Yeah. I haven't played with this model yet, but even just talking about her is making me very excited. I have her right now on my painting desk. I'm staring at her as we're talking. So I'm gonna paint her tonight, I think. So I think that's a good overview. Anything else we want to say before we move on to the next one, gentlemen? No. Okay. Why don't we do Jayda? Why don't we talk about Jayda?
Yeah.
Jared,
this is actually a Lesh model, technically. You want to lead off on Jayda for us?
Yeah. Jayda's my girl. I say that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I think the model's awesome, and I feel like I don't use her well enough. She gets all kinds of love in the forums and stuff. I've not personally gotten that much success for her. She's really squirrely. She can move around a lot. She's got some
very mobile.
She's got a ranged attack. She can absolutely hold her own in melee or in arcane. So she's 4 melee, 4 arcane, -1 evade. She's hard to hit. She's got swift, which is really nice. She can take a 2-inch reaction step once per turn, which a lot of times people forget about that. And then you're like, oh, I'm out of your range. You can't hit me again. They're like, oh, didn't realize it was
swift and
2-inch
sure-footed, which together make her incredibly
sure-footed. Sure-footed is awesome. Goes a long way to letting her get out of. So like she can get in, grab a Moonstone, get out, or get in, hit somebody really hard, get out. So she's got a lot of movement based stuff. Her bow ability, I don't know. I just suck with flipping cards and playing bluffs, I guess. I always end up breaking her bow with it. I did last night. But it could be strong if you play it well. I cannot. She, like I said, in melee, she's good too with her signature move. She can deal a good amount of damage with Mercy Kill, and dealing extra damage on an already hurt model is pretty awesome. So like, turn 1, hit somebody with a bow, drop them down a few wounds, and then turn 2, roll up in there and Mercy Kill them is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then giving her an energy back if she manages to kill him is huge, because then she can just step away again. So she's got a lot of utility. She's an awesome model. I personally haven't been able to make her work, but I mean, just looking at the card, you can see how awesome she is.
I think this is a model that, like, for me, I look at her and I'm like, oh, this is like a really good ranged supplemental piece in matchups where range matters.
Yeah.
And it's also a really good piece in matchups where sure-footed matters. Like, there's models like this, and again, I'm going to keep coming back to Malifaux because that's what I have 3 years of high-level tournament experience in. But I always think about when I look at models like this and I look at parts of their kit, it's like, you want to put Jayda into positions to succeed, in my opinion, right? And what that means is, like, are you up into a Leshavult match and they're planning on wood patching spamming you? Well, then the value of Jayda goes a heck of a lot up at that point, right? Or, are you in a matchup where Swift would really matter, right? Like, where that 2-inch move versus the 1 is really, really good. Like, then the value goes up. Are you in a matchup against Giants where they have really, 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 really easy to hit models, and shooting them from range is just a really good idea? Well, then, yeah, her value goes up. I think the thing that I'm conflicted about personally with Jayda is that after playing, a handful of games with soldiers and kind of getting my base of soldiering in here, I do think she kind of competes with Flintlock for the
absolutely
for the shooty spot. So in my opinion, and again, I'm a newer competitive player to this game, but in my opinion, she's a piece that you'll look to bring in when you're like, what would be good if I had another Flintlock, or like another model that could engage at range like Flintlock can, and or when her tech is active. And that's kind of my take on this model.
Yeah, I mean, Keith can really kind of round out this conversation around Jayda. I just, if I were a Commonwealth soldier player, I don't see myself taking up a slot over Flintlock or some of the other more utility models or buff models. In Lesh, she's almost always in my 8 model list, because if I ever learn how to play the game, I'll get good with her. But I just don't see her fitting into a lot of Commonwealth models, soldier lists,
she's
even
like
though she is
like a tech pick.
Soldier.
She's like a tech pick, right? That you bring in to supplement your ranged ability. Or if you're against like the Leshavult Menace, you can bring her, which is also interesting.
Or I mean, if you're playing casual, right, and you see the table before you pick your list, and you're like, oh man, there's a crap ton of wooded patches already on the board. Not even talking about ones that get placed. I like to put a lot of wooded patches on my boards. Then I could see that being a good pick.
Yeah, exactly. We're almost at the end here, gentlemen, which is pretty cool. We're almost done. Why don't we talk about Hoff, because we just talked about Jayda. This is a model that I'm going to have to lean on you for, Jared, because I own this guy because I think he comes in the box with Jayda, but I have never played as Hoff or used Hoff before. So
can't hassle the Hoff.
Yeah, I have never hassled with the Hoff or been hassled using the Hoff.
By the Hoff,
or by the Hoff.
He's
I've dabbled in the
one.
Hoff.
So interestingly, contrary to Jayda, he gets a lot of hate in the forums. On paper, he seems like he's okay. I used him a few times when we first started playing because I got the starter box where he came in, and he did okay. As a Commonwealth soldier, though, you know what? Let me back up. Let's go over the card, and then I'll
sure.
kind of do the overview. So,
he's also a faun.
He's
like
a
Jayda.
faun, yeah. So he fits in the faun list really well. I don't, again, like Jayda, I don't know that anyone playing Commonwealth soldiers would ever take him, and I say that because all of his abilities proc off of fauns, not soldiers.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, the only thing
he
gets
already
buffed
have.
by, they already have these guys
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and he can get buffed by the soldiers, which is great, but he doesn't do anything the other way around. So he's a one-way road. But felling axe is nice, dealing 2 extra damage on, but it's only on piercing. So impact. I'm sorry, it's only on impact. So if he's dealing piercing or slashing, it's not as good.
Yeah.
Guerrilla Tactician, like we just mentioned, only procs on fauns, so this ability is totally negated if you take him in a Commonwealth soldier list, unless you also take Jayda, in which case, why aren't you just playing Lesh anyway?
Yeah. At that point, like, come on, you're probably just playing
Commonwealth's
fauns.
better.
Yeah, if you're a Commonwealth soldier and you take Jayda and Hoff, I think you're in the closet about being a Lesh player.
Yeah. Like, come on out and just be a Lesh player. It's gonna be fine.
I mean, it's really nice to give that to fauns who generally don't have a lot of melee, and just Swift is awesome.
Yeah.
Jayda having it is great, but then giving it to other models within the list is awesome.
I think everything you said is like, again, I haven't played this model, but everything you said is, I think, really reasonable, like a take on him. I think he's like a model that you're probably bringing in more when you're just having fun and you want to try different things, and you're not necessarily trying to like top table at a tournament or something.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good starter model, which is why he's in the starter box.
Yeah.
Because he's a one-trick pony. You run him up the middle. He's a beater in a faction that doesn't generally have a lot of beaters on the Leshavult side. Whereas on the Commonwealth, because there's so many beaters there, as you just mentioned, you're not generally taking him for that.
Correct.
I mean, that's the slot he fills, and you don't need that.
Yeah. So. I think that is a really good take here. Let's just really quickly talk about, I guess, Headbutt. For his specialty. I mean,
Headbutt's good. It's the same thing as Hogswash. You can bump them away. Same thing. So you charge in with the Furious Charge, and if you end up too close and they can hit you back, you bump them out with Headbutt. Then you can hit him with his 2-inch range without fear of reprisal.
Which is good. I mean, that's a good combo. I mean,
yeah.
And I guess the other thing is, if you're on a board where he can get that Furious Charge off, he can be also a mobile piece in the same way that we talked about Hogwash being.
Not as much because his charge is only 4 inches.
Yeah, he's less good.
Hogwash is 6, but still good. And he's dealing 3 natural damage on everything except High Guard, which is only 2 because it's impact. So it's very, very similar to Hogswash, just a little bit muted and really more for the Lesh team, I think.
Agreed. I think that's a reasonable take.
He can stay there.
Keith, you got anything else on? Okay. All right. Fair enough. I was going to say Keith's take is screw this guy.
I don't want him.
He can stay with the Leshavult players.
All right. We got the only gnome. I didn't even realize until today when I was doing some prep for the video during my lunch break at like my day job that this gnome was a soldier.
Yep.
He apparently is. I have no idea what Quarrel does from a functional perspective. So again, I will lean on one of you two gentlemen, whoever would like to, lead it off on Mr. Quarrel here.
Go ahead, Keith, since you pretend to be an up-and-coming gnome player.
I pretend to be an up-and-coming We're going to talk about that later.
he'll have fisticuffs with you, sir.
We're going to talk about this later. So Quarrel wouldn't probably... Like, he has the soldier keyword, but... Like, we talked about the same thing with Jayda. It's like, if you're going to bring Quarrel, then why aren't you bringing Flintlock kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like, Brothers in Arms doesn't really work well with the target-friendly militia instead of...
Which is not great.
Which is not... I don't think any of the Commonwealth soldiers are militia, because Fritz is mercenary, not militia. So
and like you pointed out also, Keith, they're generally not really looking for arcane stat buffs.
Exactly. So while that is a great ability for the gnomes, as an up-and-coming gnome player,
you've offended him.
It's great.
Dude, I got under his skin.
You really got under his skin with that one. Gosh darn.
You're an up-and-coming jerk.
No, you're just a full jerk, Jared.
The only thing I could think of is if you want to get really, really fun and take Jayda, Quarrel, and Flintlock as 3 ranged in a list and just see what you can do. Like 14-inch range, 2x piercing damage is like amazing. So
come on, that would be fun for a casual game.
Oh yeah,
just to bring that
especially if you have a
funsies.
6 model list and you can still take like the support and 2 big beefy boys. Like that's insane. Yeah, Quarrel's fun. I would never take him if I'm taking a soldier oriented list for Commonwealth because he doesn't synergize well with the soldiers they have, and the other gnomes don't have the soldier keyword. So
he's a gnome hire, I think.
Yeah, he fills the Flintlock role in the gnome lists.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's like he's got more the militia keyword.
And to be honest with you, if we're talking about a secondary ranged model, if I'm comparing Quarrel to Jayda, I'm taking
yeah.
Jayda.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
100%. You want the one that can actually fight.
Because he's also slow on top of it, right? Like it's
Yes.
I don't know.
Where gnomes don't play a super aggressive play style most of the time, so him being slow is he's going to sit back on the stone and shoot everything from 14 inches away because
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
losing 2-inch movement, but he's gaining a 2-inch range.
He's a
compared to
14-inch
Flintlock.
gun is pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
Exactly.
And then he's got tactical retreat on him, which is the same thing
Yep.
we've gone over
All
with
the range people.
with Flintlock, and I think the old man has it too, right? Calders has, has tactical. So yeah, it's just the same thing there. I think we've, we apologize, Coral. We'll do you more justice when we cover the gnomes.
Mhm.
But for now, we are a strong sense of ennui about him, I would say, the three of us, right?
Yeah, I'll get tons of experience. Don't worry.
I'm sure when we feature him in the gnomes Commonwealth list, we're going to talk about him in a different light. But for the context of the soldier specifically, meh, I think.
Yeah.
No.
No.
So I should have ordered this model when I did my Moonstone batch order 2 weeks ago, because this model's so fucking cool, and I didn't even know it was Commonwealth. I thought it was just Shades. But Anger Boda, the risen soldier giant Norse ice lady, I guess. Who wants to take an initial swing at this large lady with an axe?
Yeah, she's fun. I used to play when I first started playing Moonstone. I used to love taking giants because the bodyguard rule for like Broomhilda and Gotchgut was really really clutch. I've slowly like weaned them out of my list because I don't need to rely on that high health anymore. But this is a giant that if I'm gonna take one in the soldiers list, it's probably gonna be her now.
Probably her. Yeah.
She's just the fact that she has the soldier keyword as a giant is insane. She's gonna
and
get
absorbs those passive buffs.
Absolutely. So with already a 3 melee, which as I talked about I think earlier before we were recording, like most of the giants have 2. So just having a 3 melee for her is crazy. Getting all those buffs from everything around her, she's gonna get 5.
Yeah.
Usually, because it'll be like that grouping up, like that 4-inch rule I was talking about. So 5, 7 on a regular attack before going for it. Most of the time on a giant, really, really good.
Yeah.
12 health.
And she has decent armor and built-in damage, like healing for herself.
Yes. So she got the +2 to impact, which +2.
I should have ordered this chick. I'm such an idiot. I should have ordered her, man. I just put in like a $300 Moonstone order, and I was like, I'm sure I'll find a model that I'm an idiot and should have modeled or ordered. I should have.
If somebody throws an order in the next few weeks, we got some new players joining. I'll see if they'll.
Oh yeah, let me know because I want to.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna order her for sure.
Yep. And then Ice in the Veins, flip an arcane card. If the X, that's great. I mean, if you get it, you get it. It's cool. If you got nothing else to do with your energy. And then Eternal Chill. Target suffers X magical damage and gains slow. This can be huge when you're trying to stop somebody from getting that last stone that's going to put them over you. They just
move debuffs are just good in general in war games, and this is a good one that also does damage at the same time.
Jared just managed to kill Fritz in melee, and he's going to be able to run and grab the stone that he was covering. You shoot this off at the last minute and secure your win, basically. She's a lot of fun. The soldier keyword with the buffs and everything, she become devastating. Her upgrade on the cleave, up on the sweeping cut.
Oh, I haven't even looked at her special.
If the enemy suffered 1 or more wounds during this round of melee, the next time the enemy would restore wounds this turn, reduce wounds restored to nothing.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes. So if she's in the middle of the board holding down that position for you, like she's usually probably going to be like near Fritz. Like they're probably
she's got a cheeky counterattack.
Yes. So she's going to be like Jared, how many? I mean, I feel like Jared, a lot of your stuff can heal most of the time. The Shades have a lot of healing that they do. It's just really good to be able to take a giant down to 2 health and know it's going to stay there.
Any model, really. I mean, if you hit that really important to take down model, and you're like, oh, by the way, you can't heal this turn.
You're Eric the Enlightened.
That's huge. Yeah,
it's good. It's really good. Her whole kit is really good, honestly.
Our friend really Jonathan would rebuke that because he never has good luck with her and has basically shunned this model. He just recently
Wild.
tried her again, but he was basically like gonna give her to me because he didn't like her, and I was playing the.
I'll buy it if it's painted or if
Oh,
it's built reasonably.
It's
I'll buy it.
beautiful, dude. Yeah.
I'll
We'll
buy
see.
it.
Well,
I
I don't know. I don't know
probably
how he
still
thought of her
do,
the other.
but-
Yeah, I don't know how he thought about her the other game, but I know we killed her. So, yeah.
All right. I think, gentlemen, big group high five here.
Mm.
I think we've just accomplished our first ever faction-focused Moonstone video.
Freeze frame.
Freeze frame. Like we do that like jump where everybody
Yep.
jumps up and puts their fist in the air, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, from the '90s movies. We did it. So like, excellent job. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm lucky to have you in my life. Before we leave, do you guys want to each take like just 2 minutes to give us each independently your like closing thoughts on soldiers as a whole?
Mhm.
I think that's like a good way to just end it, to wrap it up, where you know, and I think the interesting thing here specifically is that Keith, you can talk to the perspective of being predominantly a soldier's player, and then Jared, you can talk predominantly as the opponent of a soldier's player.
Yep.
Do you want, Keith, do you want to start us off so that you're give us context on the soldiers as a soldier, and then Jared close us out as the
Yeah.
here's how you kind of like beat up on them and stuff?
So they're just a lot of fun to play, very straightforward. I think we kind of went through everything that's fun to do with them. There's a lot of little cheeky things that you can get in there. We talked about the Flintlock double shot and all that. Overall, I just think that they're a lot of fun and a great. I can't stress enough how good they are to like get into the game and how they teach you the base mechanics really well. And there's a reason that like it's Fancyhat, Eric, and Flintlock and these models in the starter set. To get you like started, and just know that when you play Commonwealth soldiers, you're better than everybody else. You know, it's just one of those things that comes
Jesus,
inherently
Keith.
with it, I guess.
An air of superiority because
Yeah,
of
if
your closet of fancy hats and muskets.
in spirit of Fancyhat, I mean, there's
What's
no
his?
point doing it if you're not the best, right?
Doesn't Fancy Hat have like a lore line where he's like, you've insulted my fancy hat. I will kill you now.
Yeah,
Or
there was
something.
something else about what's the point of fighting people if you're not going to look good while doing it. It's like, yeah, just know that you're better than everybody else.
Well, his
Jeez.
quote on the Commonwealth page says, "You may insult me, you may insult the Commonwealth, but you may not insult my beautiful hat.
My beautiful
Pick
hat.
up your weapons, sir.
Yeah.
Or we do it on."
And we still want the Eric model.
Exact
And
same
make him a
energy that Keith
soldier.
just gave off.
Oh, Keith embodies Fancy Hat. Everything he plays.
He's my spirit animal.
That's amazing. All right, Jared, what do you got as a regular opponent of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they're fun to play against. I mean, Moonstone in general, I think I said on our intro video, like I find myself enjoying the game, whether I'm losing, winning, tying, drawing, whatever. But they are fun to play against. They're, like he said, they're a great squad to learn against because they are fairly straightforward. They have some shenanigans here and there, but nothing crazy that a new player is going to really have a hard time figuring out. They are, I won't say one-trick pony, but they are, because they're straightforward, they have counters, right? Stay away from Flintlock. Not Flintlock, Fritz, don't bunch up, right? Be aware of Flintlock's threat range. So there are things you can do, but, you know, they are killy. If you make the wrong move tactically, they'll wreck your face.
They'll get ya.
They'll make you know that you made an incorrect move.
They'll make you know that they're better than you.
Yeah, they're like the, I guess, to use 40k terms, they're kind of like the corn berserkers, right? They're going to push up the battlefield, they're going to pressure you, and if you don't respect their threat ranges, and if you don't have a business plan put together for how you're going to deal with the DPS that's coming out of this crew, you're going to die.
Yep, absolutely.
But if you do have a business plan, then things can get a lot better for you. And I also think understanding things like, oh, a lot of their passive reduction is focused on non-magical, except for my boy on the boar, right? Like, or like, oh, like you called it out, Jared. Oh, like Eric is a really important piece. If I can scalp that out, like that can really hurt them. Or,
Yeah.
Oh, Flintlock is really bad for me in this matchup. can I find a way to deal with Calders if I can't immediately deal with Flintlock? Or can I find a way to progress up the board state in a manner where the gun is not just pointed at my face, right? Like, there's a lot of different things that you can do, but the one thing you really don't want to do against these guys is just be like, it'll be fine, and just walk up the board.
Don't underestimate them. Definitely don't underestimate.
Do not underestimate them. Do not just walk into them, because they will schmanagle your bagel.
Yeah, just because they're straightforward doesn't mean they're easy to beat.
Correct.
They will poppy the cock.
They will poppy. Can't say that. All right. Gentlemen, I guess we've done it all here. We've contributed to the soldier hierarchy overall. I guess the last thing we got to do is just we'll see you guys next time. And I think next time we're going to be focusing on one of Jared's factions. As of yet undefined, it'll be a Leshavult overview that you guys will probably see from us. And we're going to have Jared pick what he wants to do for his specific faction of sub-choice. So
we have to do all of them.
We got to do all of them. Might as well go away from the Commonwealth for a little. We'll return. All right, gentlemen. Say goodbye to
our showers now.
Say goodbye to the internet, gentlemen.
Adios, internet.
Goodbye, internet.
We'll see y'all next time. Goodbye, internet. Badoom ching.
Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by the planet. You can check out the video description below for all of our important info and links. You can see a link to the Discord if you want to come be nerds on the internet with us. We have channels for like all the games that we're playing and all of our community members are excited about. You can also check out all of our affiliate links for like our Redbubble merch store, our Pro Acryl discount code because they make the best hobby supplies on our planet and yours. And of course, our weird affiliate link if you're buying Malifaux stuff straight from Jonathan Q. Weird himself. Most importantly though, you can see a link to our Patreon where I post things from time to time, like behind the scenes cuts or early vids, and we even have a tier where I'll bake you cookies and send them to you in real life. Thanks a ton to our current patrons who cover the cost of all of our software to make these videos, and we couldn't do it without them. You can see their names appearing now across the screen, and until next time, goodbye the internet. We did it!